Evisceradio. What's shaking, everybody? My name is Thomas, and welcome back to another awesome, excellent episode of Evisceradio, where I sit down with bands who I play in the live show, and we talk about what's good in life and what's good in music and everything in between. All the guaranteed good, wholesome, good times is found right here, man. If you're looking for genuine content, Evisceradio has got you covered. Story time. So COVID had just about hit, and I was lucky enough to get like my first batch of, I guess, lockdown music, you could call it, ordered in via mail. And there was lots of bands on there, like A Desolate Shrine was in there. A bunch of Dark Descent Records stuff in general was on there. Cryptosis was there. Anyways, the list goes on and on and on. But there was one band from Montreal who was on there as well, and I bought on a whim off a review site that I sort of discovered not too long prior to this order. The 3 a.m. wake up involved listening to music almost right off the bat. I would get out of bed, I would go to the studio room, I would lie back down on the couch, I would put on the new music that I had just received, and then I would just sort of let it carry me where it's going to go. Now, there were lots of bands who did a really good job in taking me places, but there was one band, especially at the beginning, and actually now that I'm thinking about it through the course of most of the lockdown, was a band called Phobocosm. I mean, shit, how could I resist? I mean, one of the songs they've got on here is called Sleep Deprivation, so it seemed fitting. I threw that shit on, and they bridge the gap between conscious and subconscious, especially when you're in the throes of trying to sleep or sort of staying awake. You know, when you've been up a long time, or you're halfway through sleep and you're kind of aware of certain things, but like your brain is sort of taken over in the dream state. Just interesting shit can happen. One of the coolest things I've discovered is that when you introduce a little bit of Phobocosm into that shit, man, the fucking Magic Carpet Ride comes out and you are on a fucking journey. Very, very cool stuff. I highly, highly recommend it. If you haven't heard of these guys, man, again, I say this in a lot of interviews, but I really mean it in this one too. Stop what you're doing, press this shit on pause, go to YouTube, go to Bandcamp, check them out, come back here and watch what I'm sure is going to be a kick-ass interview. I've been looking forward to talking to these guys since the whole YouTube thing started. Really looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, man. Phobocosm, baby. Yeah.
You there?
I'm here, man. Sorry about that.
No problem.
You know that internet dropping thing I was telling you about there?
Yeah.
Well, I went and bought some new Cat 6 and tried to route it from my phone to there, and it dropped instantly. So that did not work. So now everything is just like literally like Wi-Fi hotspotted.
All right.
Yeah, but anyhow, fucking again, good to see you. I'm super happy to sit down in front of you. I was saying earlier that Phobocosm was just an awesome COVID discovery for me. I was listening to your stuff, like I said earlier, at like 3 a.m. and I found that your guys' music really bridged a cool gap between sort of conscious and sort of unconscious. And I just wanted to say kudos. The shit's a journey to listen to.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, man.
The song Sleep Deprivation is was kind of like inspired by the fact that when we wrote the first album, I just couldn't sleep because, you know, we were working on the songs and I have kind of like an obsessive way of thinking. So I was like, okay, I need to finish it. And I kept thinking about it. And since I had so little sleep, it was an instrumental song, so I was like, "Oh, what are you gonna call this thing?" I was like, "Yeah, sleep deprivation." Yeah,
very, very.
That's why. Yeah, so a lot of that stuff was written really late, you know, at 2 or 3 a.m. or even worse. So that might be why it worked for you when you discover our stuff and listen to it during nighttime.
It's funny because because I kind of gelled with that, because I kind of gelled with the music at that particular time. Whenever I have those sleepless nights, that's the stuff that I throw on. There's a very small stack of shit that I'll listen to when I can't quite go under, and your guys is at the top of the pile.
That's cool.
Do you find that you write your music in states like that? Is that sort of like one of the driving factors behind the soundscape that you create?
Yeah, well, I've tried writing stuff when I'm feeling all right and, you know, things are good, and it never really works. I really have to be in a certain mindset, and usually when I'm kind of like angry or depressed or really worried, this is when the ideas pop up in my head. And sometimes when I really want to write stuff, I use crutches. Like
What do you
I
mean?
drink a little, and
Oh, I see.
if I have a few beers, and it kind of it makes it easier for me to just get into that mood, and usually it helps. So it's not music that is inspired by drugs, because I don't do drugs, but when I'm feeling too happy and I'm like, okay, I need to write stuff tonight, a few beers will help me reach that that inner darkness that is necessary when I read this stuff.
Hey
And I
man,
make sure that happiness is absolutely absent from our albums. If there's one thing that's like, this sounds kind of glorious or happy, I just get rid of it. It has to be dark.
it's gotta
Everything.
it's gotta fit that fucking theme, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I go as far as to call them crutches, man. They seem to complement what you're going for very, very well. Any kind of little nuances you can do to make the overall sound that much better, I say go for it. Fuck that crutch shit. I
Yeah.
think that's total advantage, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking behind you, dude. Look at the CD collection you got there.
I have a few of them. And I have a shitload of vinyls too. Started collecting vinyls in, I think, 2010, and I have so many. I probably have something like 400 or something like that.
400 vinyl.
Yeah. And about 1,000 CDs. I'm a crazy, insane collector. I need to have physical copies of the stuff that I'm not a Spotify kind of guy, and
No.
yeah.
I love hearing that, man. I'm a CD guy too. I'm just in front of me behind the camera is almost 1,000 CDs I've been collecting my whole life. It's gone past like the Napster thing and like the MP3 stuff. Like I can't, like, I'm too, like, I need to have those master physical copies. There's just something about having the tangible physical element in front of you. I had another interview in the past where this came up, and there's just something to be said for a musician releasing a part of themselves in a package that it was meant to be heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't help but like want to give, like, my money goes straight to the artist or Bandcamp or the label. Like, I rarely buy used. I make sure that the money, my appreciation for it all goes and funnels itself to the proper channels. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Man, look at the fucking pile you got there. That's great. Is it mostly metals? Is it a mixed bag of stuff?
I would say that about 90% is metal.
Dude.
I'm 44 years old, so when I discovered music that's worthy of mention, I was 10 years old, and my first love was thrash metal.
Yeah.
So I started with thrash, and then I found bands that were more and more and more intense. But back when I was a kid, I used to live in northern Quebec, really far, and it was really hard for me to get super underground stuff. So in my mid-teens, I really started listening to a lot of alternative music. So the other 10% is acoustic stuff, alternative, like Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. Yeah. I'm a huge Nirvana fan. So some of my friends kind of give me shit about that, when I'm like, yeah, I fucking love that. I don't give a shit. I love that stuff.
Yeah, exactly, man. You love what you love. Why do you need to question it more than that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's all good. I always give them shit about some of the stuff they like to, which is like teasing each other and stuff. So it's fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah, if you can give it, you got to be able to take a little back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you really like a band, even if someone's right next to you talking shit about it, if you change your mind, it's like, did you really like that band for real? I'm always like, you can talk shit about my favorite bands. It's not going to change my opinion of them. So it's like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, man. Like, again, you know why you're into it.
Exactly.
Why question it? Just go with what feels good, dude. I grew up on thrash myself. My first album, I was 8 years old. Peace Sells, but Who's Buying? Megadeth. And like, that's like, I think before then I might have been listening to the Chili Peppers, and then there was like Raffi albums and Fred Penner albums and stuff. And I remember seeing like a red background with a skeleton on it, and I pointed it at my mom, and I was like, I want that. And then it was off to the races. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thrash definitely set the way. I actually, fun fact, got a thrash tattoo today dedicated to thrash music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just got back from the tattoo chair. I have like a little themed leg sleeve going on for different types of like metals, death metal, black metal, et cetera, et cetera. And my little thrash guy happened today. Fun fact, actually, I'm just about to start like the sort of like the second batch of these. And one of the concepts I had Phobocosm in mind because I was losing I wouldn't say losing. I was having a hard time conceptualizing one of these designs. I knew I wanted it to be very, very dark, and the image and behind the darkness was to be barely made out. Like if you were to look at it, you would see nothing, like in blackness, and then on second glance, you might start to pick things out. And I couldn't really describe the style of music per se, but I knew I had some examples of like some bands I wanted to give to the artist because like if you can't picture it, then maybe you can listen to it and that might jog something.
Yeah.
And while a few weeks back, I was trying to think of the way to lay this out, and I was listening to your guys' stuff, and the song Engulfing Dusk is usually the first thing that pops on when I'm driving to work. And this is another 4 a.m. deal. And I was like, that's the fucking ticket right there. So I sent him the thing and he was like, oh, I understand now.
Well,
so, yeah, man. So like, you never know where you're going to find inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And music, when music comes from your guts and stuff like that, it's that's the type of music that creates images in your head. When it's not like super generic and it's just a collection of riffs. I thought it was cool. When it's when it comes from darkness and emotions, it really generates kind of like a little movie in your head. And this is some people who like our stuff told us that they had a bunch of really apocalyptic images in their head when they listened to our music, and I was like, all right, I guess mission accomplished, because this is always what we've been aiming for, so that's cool.
You were looking for an apocalyptic imagery in your music? Yeah, no shit. Well, fucking mission accomplished, man.
Thanks,
dude. Now I'm trying to think of like the stuff. I'm not even sure because when I was listening to it in the AMs and stuff and half in it asleep, just the mind does a kaleidoscope of different imagery and stuff. It's just really hard to pinpoint. But I know that the overall color scheme was black.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's apocalyptic enough for my taste, and that's the best way I could describe it, man.
Yeah, I can confirm that the next album is not gonna. There's not gonna be any green or blue on the album cover. It's
Dope.
It's black and white and gray, and it's no light, no just
suffocating.
Darkness. Yeah,
fucking drown me, man. I can't wait for it to come out. You said earlier you're in studio right now.
No, actually, we finished recording the album a while ago. We were just putting the finishing touches because man, that album. I finished writing the bulk of the material because I write most of it, but the singer bass player then writes his lyrics and his bass parts, and I work on making the drum parts because I write the drum parts and I program them, but then I show them to my drummer and he has his little just he fine tunes what I write and makes it kind of like less repetitive. So we were supposed to record the album in actually we were booked at the studio in for just the pre-prod of the album back in May of 2020, but 2 months before I think you remember what happened, so we canceled everything.
Oh yeah.
And our initial plan was to have the album ready by the end of 2020 and to do a tour in Europe to support the album. But yeah, everything turned to shit. So the only thing that was done at that point were guitar tracks. So I was supposed to meet with my singer and bass player and record the bass tracks and then a pre-prod of the vocals, but we couldn't do that before I think January of 2021. So
oh shit.
We had to wait a long time, and we recorded drum tracks in November of 2021. and we reamped the album. You're familiar with the concept of reamping, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So we reamped the album, the guitar tracks and the bass tracks, last summer in July, and then our the guy who's mixing and mastering our album was a little busy, so we started working on the mix in, I think, early September of last year, and we finished mixing it in February of this year. So it took a long time.
Yeah, well, I'm
Yeah,
sure I'm sure it's going to be worth it just to get it out there too. I'm sure it's a bit of a relief as well.
yeah,
I can imagine like all that space during COVID, like you had an opportunity to like go back and refine and retune, maybe to like a disadvantage or not.
yeah,
Me personally, I'm like I get to a 95% when I'm writing my songs, and that starts to fucking pick through everything and like second guess and et cetera, et cetera. But
yeah,
now that it's done and out, man, that's got to be a bit of a relief too. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, it really pisses me off that we had to wait, this whole time, because at first it was supposed to, since it was supposed to come out in 2020, it was like, okay, it's been 4 years since the last album, but now 2023, it's like, oh man. But you know the changes that we made, the little fine tunings and stuff like that that we made during that period when we were just waiting for to be able to finish the album, I'm in a way I'm glad that we had to wait, because those ideas wouldn't be there, and they really, I think, those little things really made the songs more special, at least to our ears. And so yeah, yeah,
Dude,
it's a bad thing, but it's a good thing at the same time. So
well, there's silver linings to all the bad things, man. Like
yeah,
you take some shit and you find out what's good in that, and you just
yeah.
move forward with it. I
Yeah, another thing that was good is that, when we realized that, things were not going to close down for only 3 weeks, like it was, like they said at the beginning, I had a bunch of other songs that were not necessarily 100% ready, but because on the album there's 6 songs, and I had 4 other songs that were kind of like almost done, but not quite.
right,
So our original intent was to do the next album, and right after that we're going to do an EP.
okay,
But since we had a lot of time that we couldn't be together, and we couldn't record the album, we decided that we were going to finish the songs for the EP. So we recorded the album and an EP. So the album's going to be released in 2023, and in 2024 there's going to be an EP, which are the 4 remaining songs.
excellent.
So another, it sucks that we had to wait, but we get another EP, and the fact that it was recorded, at the same time as the album is kind of like, yeah, that's a good thing, because actually the EP is done, except for one thing. We need to record vocals, so which is which is something that we're going to do probably maybe at the end of summer. But the whole thing is already mixed, because it was mixed at the same time as the album. So,
Right, gotcha.
but that's a good thing. It's just only thing left to do is vocals. So
You're almost there, man. You're almost
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, we already have almost half of the fourth full length that is written. So
You guys don't fuck around.
yeah, it's just, so there's going to be an album in 2023, an EP in 2024, and another album hopefully by the end of 2025. So
That's awesome, man. It's fucking. You guys are coming out swinging,
yeah,
dude. Fucking wicked. Is it going back on Dark Descent?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. We're putting the finishing touches on the artwork right now. The album cover is done, and Desolate Shrine from that's on Dark Descent.
I sure fucking do.
Yeah. So the main guy in that band, he also does the artworks for his albums, and he's the one who did the artwork for the new album, and it looks amazing.
Dude, that's awesome. Get out of
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, so this is done. The only thing that that is getting worked on at the moment is layout. So it's probably this week or next week. Everything's going to be done. I'm going to hand the files to Matt from Dark Descent, and then we'll see when it gets released. But hopefully, maybe in the fall or something.
Well,
Something like that.
whenever it comes out, man, I'll be the first one in line to grab it.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking Desolate Shrine are awesome, man. I would love to sit down in front of those guys too. And even the people who run Dark Descent, like one of the things I want to do is sit in front of labels and stuff and talk about what they do, similar conversations with like what you and I are having, just chilling out and having fun and seeing what makes them tick and why they're doing what they're doing, you know what I mean? But Dark Descent, I keep saying Dark Descent. Desolate Shrine I've been jamming a fucking ton of their stuff lately.
Yeah, such an underrated band, criminally underrated. I'm like, more people should know this band, man. It's so awesome.
Oh my god, I fucking bring about it's so dark and you want to talk about suffocation, man.
Yeah.
Fucking Jesus. Yeah, well again, can't wait for all of that shit to come out. I'm really happy you guys are like you hit the ground running after all the COVID stuff. One of the things that I really appreciate about like bands with just dope ass names is that you're a Phobo and Cosm. The way that you said in an interview like a while back about like how you came up with that and how the word Phobos, which is fear, and cosmos,
Yeah,
which is the opposite of chaos, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
It's
how
kind of
and how you couldn't figure out a way to like blend the two, so you just built your own fucking word.
Yeah. I still have a sheet of paper with all the tentative names that we use, and it's funny because Phobocosm is kind of like circle. We're like, this is the one.
That's the one. Yeah, I was just because that's the question I wanted to ask. There must have been like other contenders and shit. Like Phobocosm obviously had to be the one that popped out. Was it the first one you thought of, and everything else just didn't come to par with it, or like how big of a list? Like, what were some other contenders? I'm curious.
Well, actually, it was a pretty big list. My singer, bass player, I'm well, good. I can write songs and stuff like that, but coming up with lyrics and album titles, I'm not that good with that because I'm always, I always doubt my my choices, and I'm like, and I remember when we were trying to come up with a band name, he brought me a sheet of paper, and it was I think something like 40 names, suggestions. I was like, holy shit. And some of them, it was funny because, since, he gave me that sheet of paper that I still have right there. It's funny. Some of those band names, because, he validated that they were available. But some of them, since we did that exercise of just trying to come up with a name, have been used afterwards. So it's funny because you had a good list of suggestions, but some of them are not available anymore.
Well, you thought of them first.
Yeah, and what's cool is that it's I should take that sheet out and keep it not too far, because I remember that some of those names were kind of like very good song title ideas too. So sometimes if we're ever stuck in a rut and we can't find a concept for a song or a song title, there's a bunch of suggestions on that sheet of paper that are very, very good.
Yeah, I bet. Handy tools to have around.
Yeah, and it's funny because when we started looking for an artist to do our logo, since there's Cosm in our band name, there's a lot of bands in Quebec that are kind of like they always have planets on and stuff from space on their album covers.
Sure.
And the guy really went for that, and we're like, please, no planets, no. It's we're not a tech death band that talks about planets and stuff like that. So I really had to explain to the guy, all right, it's just Cosm, as in cosmos, but not the definition the first definition that you have in mind. This other definition, it was all right, but I still have the old logo, and the O in the middle was kind of like a planet. I was like, oh man.
No,
but the second version was that's the one that we used in the end. Yeah.
Dude, you could hit it out of the park. Yeah, I always thought too that it had something to do with like space. And then I went on that interview and nope, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Your guys' spin on it is way fucking more unique.
Yeah.
I just like the creating of the word is something that's awesome. Evisceradio is the same sort of deal. I was trying to think of I have a radio spot that I go live actually right after this interview. And I was trying to think of a name like a few years back, and I'm like, I just didn't know. And I'm terrible with coming up with names too, but I was playing a lot of Cannibal Corpse at the time, and Evisceration Plague was on the top of that list. So I was like, Evisceration something, and then like I just was spinning my wheels, and sort of the first name I came up with was Evisceradio, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me just put that aside. And after a few more days of coming up with nothing even close, I started to push that name around to other people who thought of being like, is it a good idea? Is it clever? And it was already sounding yes. And I think what actually made it really, really kick was the logo that came up for that. Which is actually right behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I understand and appreciate fucking just coming up with unique ideas like that. So kudos, dude. Yeah. Let's see what else is there. Oh, and another interview that I saw in the way back in the day. I can't remember who asked you, but it led me to a follow-up question, sort of, where you had said that one of the reasons why Phobocosm exists is because it was a bit of an answer to your dissatisfaction with what was going on in the scene with black metal and death metal. I don't know if it really rings a bell, but in that statement you had said such like, we're just not happy, and Phobocosm moving forward is our rebuttal to like what's going out at that particular point in time. Now some time has passed, and there's a whole bunch of new shit that's out there, and I was wondering, is that statement still ring true? Is that still a driving force behind you guys? Like, has it gotten better? Is it still the same? Is it worse? Like does that still motivate you in that sense?
Yeah, because a while ago, because I'm an elitist, like a lot of us are. There's a lot of subgenres that I can't really stand. I'm just trying not to do some shit talking, but all right, I'm just gonna say it. I don't like tech death. I think it's they're super talented, but in Quebec, it's just there are so many tech death bands.
Is it played out over there?
Yeah, man. There are so many bands, and with Phobocosm, when we're doing shows, we always try to play with like-minded bands, and we only did one show which featured tech death bands, and we felt so we were like, what the fuck are we doing here? And I remember people were saying, it was weird because between songs we have this concept in Phobocosm that there's never silence. It's not like and then we tune and then we start the other song. There's always samples and noise and stuff like that. Right. And I remember people were kind of like saying, it's weird. They had, there was feedback between the songs and it was very noisy. What the hell was that? And I was like, I don't like to force people to listen to my music, and I don't like being forced to listen to other people's music. So we always made sure to play with bands that we have something in common with, and what we play is dark death metal, so we're always trying to find bands we can play with. But unfortunately, in our part of Canada, all of the bands all the ones that we know of that are kind of like in our subgenre of metal, we've played with them, and it's really hard to find new bands to play with that we're like, that's a band we would like to, we would like their fans to hear our music or our fans to hear theirs, because it's just tech death around here, and I think it's very boring, and I don't really mind the fact that that there's a bunch of tech death bands. This is not what bothers me. It's the fact that all bands are tech death bands, or super overproduced bands that are just kind of like
mega polished.
Yeah, mega polished, and there's kind of like no emotion. It's kind of like, hey, look what I can do with my guitar. It's like, all right, congratulations. There's Dream Theater that can play circles around you. What are you trying to prove? Because where are your songs? All right, you play fast, you play super tight, but I don't feel anything. So it was Phobocosm was kind of like a reaction to that. We were not that we're it's just our opinion. Am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know, but we're kind of like on the same we have kind of like the same vision of what we want to accomplish musically. Yeah. And it's just our version. They probably say stuff about bands like us, and we don't mind. It's just like, this is what we're aiming for. And, we felt that there wasn't, a lot of bands that that we really liked from our area of Canada, and except for Gorguts and
Sure.
seriously, I think I can name 4 bands from Quebec that are still active that I like. That's about it. And we were like, okay, we're just gonna we're gonna try to come up with really dark music. And first of all, it's gonna be something really different, because around here there are no bands that do that.
No.
There's our other guitar player, he's an Cathalist, which is kind of like dark death metal too. But apart from that, in Quebec, Gorguts, I can't think of any other bands. So it's kind of like, it's very frustrating. So yeah, it's kind of a reaction to that in a way.
It's interesting that your band is formed off of an opinion or an idea. That's new. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that, but it was kind of like we this, the fact that we have this satisfaction with bands from around here forced us to kind of like come up with a vision, and we try to make sure that every single move we make goes according to that vision. We always keep that vision, our initial this is our boundaries and what we're trying to accomplish with Phobocosm. We always try to respect our vision, and our dissatisfaction with the state of metal in Quebec made us come up with that vision, if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
But it's more than that. It's just, since you were talking about what I said in that interview, it's not only that. We do that sort of music because this is what we listen to. We're huge Immolation fans, and
damn right.
I have to write music like that, otherwise I'm gonna feel kind of like incomplete or something.
Yeah, no, I understand. I totally get where you're putting down.
Yeah,
those are all super legit reasons, man. I had no idea. I had no idea that it would have been such an arduous fucking thing for you guys to find the like-minded musicians to share the stage with. Like, I know Montreal or Quebec is like a hotspot for metal on a national scale, even internationally, really. Quebec's kind of fucking where it's at, really. But like I'm familiar with a lot of the tech death down there. Yeah, and there isn't, until you had mentioned those names, anything that I was aware of that closely resembled anything that you're putting out. Yeah. And I would, now you're making me think of like what's going on here in Toronto. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff going on here too, but the only things I can think of that would be in comparison is maybe Panzerfaust. But like
Adversarial?
Adversarial, yeah, that's one too, yeah. Have you guys ever toured outside of Canada, like not outside of Canada, outside of Quebec? Like, are there other bands like outside the way where, like, whenever you go about, you call that number and they know you're coming, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I'm just we didn't get a lot of chances to play outside of Canada, but we played pretty often in Toronto, maybe 5 or 6 times. Most of those times when we played in Toronto, it was with Adversarial or Thantifaxat.
Oh man, those guys are great.
Yeah, but in 2016 we did our first tour with Mitochondrion and Orrock. So it was about 2 weeks, and we had one date in Montreal, another one in Toronto, but the rest of the dates were in the States. And we finished that small tour at MDF, which was wow. I still remember that day, man. It was so great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then we did that was in May of 2016, and in November of 2016 we did a 1-month tour with Ulcerate and Shrine.
Okay. Oh yeah, there's an article out there about that somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys got to play with Ulcerate, eh? That should take some work to get into, but fuck, is it ever worth it?
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. That tour that we, it's just being able to see one of my favorite bands play every night and just fucking crushing everyone is like, wow.
Oh my God, yeah.
And Shrine were great too. Well, basically, as great as Ulcerate are, I think Shrine really stole the show. We were all blown away. They were so awesome. Have you heard them, the band from Iceland, Shrine?
No.
great band. Check them out.
I'm gonna write that down.
And it's Shrine, but it's instead of an S, it's a Z, ZHRINE.
ZHRINE. Damn right, I'm gonna look that up.
Very great band, and every night they would play their entire album because they only have one album. They're working on some stuff, but I don't know why it hasn't come out yet. But they were playing the album from start to finish, and everyone was just blown away. So yeah, we did those tours, and right before the pandemic, we played at Killtown Death Fest in Denmark.
Dude, so yeah,
that was awesome.
So you guys definitely got some miles on you.
Yeah.
So there's probably no issue finding people to play with when you're going on those like extended miles tours for sure, as opposed to local and stuff. I wonder who you guys might even be sharing the bill with should you guys come to Toronto next. We'll find out, I'm sure. You guys got albums to release and some more fish to fry. That like got that stuff going first.
Well, I haven't asked them yet, but I think it would be logical to play with either Fantafaxat or Adversarial again, because both of those bands are going to release a new album this year. So maybe
Fantafaxat is putting an album out this year?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep, and Adversarial too. So it's going to be a huge year for Dark Descent.
Dude, man, that's one of the out of all the labels that I've been keeping a close eye on, Dark Descent is the one that just continually like smashes my face in. Yeah. Everything on there is so fucking good. They really are the gold mine, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I wonder how they come across. Like, I wonder if it's just like blind submissions. Was it for you guys like you were putting your stuff out there and then Dark Descent like bit?
Actually, it's a pretty funny story because me and my friends, we were huge fans of everything that was coming out on Dark Descent, and it was in 2011. We were almost done with our first album. We were we had pre-prods and everything, but we had the drums were recorded, and we were about to go record reamp the guitars and the bass tracks and stuff like that. But we had an offer to do our first show with Adversarial in Montreal, and one of the first bands that Matt signed on Dark Descent was Adversarial.
Okay.
So Matt and Carlos, the singer guitar player from Adversarial, they're really good friends, and we were we couldn't wait to finish recording the album, because the first thing that I wanted to do, the date I would get the tracks would be to just send that to Matt and hope for the best. But what is funny is that we probably had about 4 or 5 months left of work to do to reach that milestone of being able to send the album to Matt.
Right. And
we did this show with Adversarial, and 2 or 3 days after, we got a message from Matt from Dark Descent, and he said, I heard about you guys and I'm really interested in signing you. And we were like, what? And we couldn't really understand what was up, because we didn't know the backstory of Matt and Carlos from Adversarial. But when we played with Adversarial, Carlos sent a message to Matt and he said, check those guys out, they're really great.
That is fucking awesome.
And and Matt was like, do you have anything that I can listen to? And I was like, yeah, we have this shitty pre-prod. And he was like, yeah, it's really promising, so keep me posted, and just send me your stuff when it's properly recorded. And this is how it happened. We were waiting for the moment to to get in touch with Matt, but he contacted us first. That was
fucking wow. Some things are meant to be, man. That's an awesome story.
I remember I was, almost jumping. Yes.
Yeah, I fucking bet you were.
That was so easy. It was way too easy, in fact.
Oh man. Well, hey, again, like it happened, and now you're fully on board.
Yeah.
I'm. Oh God. I like victory stories, man. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. And we're such huge fans of the label because there was Corpsest and Crypts and Desolate Shrine and Hedonist and bands like that. We were like, man, we belong on that label. We hope our small band will be up to the standards of Dark Descent. And yeah,
God damn, you guys,
it works.
Definitely are. He thought so. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. I was actually maybe a month or so ago, contemplating doing a big Dark Descent purchase order, and scooping up a bunch of shit from their roster. I think the band Ulthar is on that too. I can't remember.
Altars?
No,
From us, from Australia?
no, they're from the States. Ulthar.
Oh,
Ulthar.
okay. I've never heard about that band. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. They just released something. They released something like last month, and I just can't remember what's that label. Anyways, regardless, I've been thinking about doing fucking Dark Descent, big scoop off their shelf and bringing it over here. Like I said earlier, out of all the labels that I'm finding like gold from, like that's just the go-to spot.
Yeah.
I would hope that one day I get to sit down and talk with the guy and tell him in person, fucking keep signing what you're signing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. One of the things that I love to talk about when with people on this show is that like Phobocosm is obviously like a passion project for you guys, and you also have your life to balance the fucking thing out. And I'm always curious to know, for as much weight that you put into something that you really do stand behind, is there like, how do you keep things in symmetry with your life? And you said you work in IT, like is there a balance in there? Does your work sometimes take over? Are you able to step back? Is Phobocosm, I know it's not a brand, it's something that you love to do, but like sometimes it can become work, you know what I mean? And you have to go through some mental hurdles to bring yourself back to it being the thing that you really want to do. I'll use myself as an example. Sometimes Evisceradio it can be a fucking chore. The radio spot is not so much. This YouTube stuff that I'm doing right now is like, I look forward to that all the fucking time, but behind the scenes and the editing and like the customizing graphics and stuff like that, that's, you know, there's hours and hours and hours that goes into one episode, and I'm just sort of like, fuck. And I don't outsource that material. And I guess to answer the question I'm asking you is that like, I love it, but it is work. And is there any correlation to that between you and Phobocosm? Does it fit well in your life? Do you have to make time for it?
Yeah. Well, Phobocosm is kind of like, this is something that we want to change, but there's always, you know, moments in the year when, you know, we're not really active. So usually when there's a show, we start jamming about a month and a half before, so twice a week, stuff like that. But when we're not getting ready for shows, we have side projects too that, you know, we spend some time, you know, jamming and writing songs with those bands. But when I'm, you know, when we're not getting ready for shows and I'm working on our music, usually I work from 9 to 5, but usually in the evening, the days that I would normally go to the rehearsal room with the band, I'm working on, you know, writing riffs and, you know, creating click tracks and, you know, just doing a lot of the chores that come with having a, you know, a band that is active. So yeah, it's usually when we're not getting ready for shows, I'm either working on new material or I'm learning songs for my other projects, or yeah. So it's definitely hard because, you know, I have a girlfriend, I have, you know, a bunch of friends, and I always try to find the right balance between work, band stuff, and, you know, spending time with my girlfriend and my friends and my other hobbies. So yeah, it's definitely very hard, especially the fact that I have this kind of like obsessive way of when I finally start working on something, someone has to, you know, oh, Sam, just all right, you need to do something else. Oh, what? So it's yeah.
You got the fucking blinders, man. I got the same thing, man.
Yeah. It's hard, but, you know, it's in the end, it's all most of the, you know, the band related stuff. It's still fun for me, so it's like it's no big deal. I'm just trying to get better at keeping a good balance between all of that stuff.
Yeah,
because, you know, sometimes, you know, when we were getting ready to record albums or stuff like some of our albums, you know, I would spend hours and hours and hours, maybe 3 to 5 days a week, just working on that stuff from 7 p.m. until 2 or 3 a.m. And, you know, I work, so sometimes I'm like, I have to slap myself back to just the reality and just like, okay, there's other stuff you can you can spread this, in a longer time period instead of just doing it all in in a month or something like that.
Oh yeah, and just straight grinding the shit out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suffer from the same affliction, man. I once I get into it, I'm all about it until it's done. And it's I mean, part of it is just about the process itself. Like I'm sure like for you and for me and like trying to figure out those nuances in life, like moving forward with the projects and stuff that you bring in and like the social aspect that you're trying to keep alive. Like the older you get, the more you experience, like I'm hoping that like things start to like level out and you just have a better way of like scheduling your time and your attention and your well-being across whatever the fuck it might be you bring into your life. And like I'm still working on it. And like part of the reason behind that question was I was almost to see if there was anything in there for like, fuck, do you got any advice? Because like I'm not a family man. I've got like friends. I work an awful lot, and I think my first issue is that I work in the film industry out here. And that is a lot of man hours, barely enough to like, come home and like do the Evisceradio thing. And I also like write my own music on the side too. And so like, I guess, to make a long story short, it's all about that balance and figuring out where you sit within all the things you bring in your life. So, but you seem like a very fucking happy, well-adjusted person putting out some dope ass stuff. So you kind of have some things figured out, it looks like.
Yeah. But it's when I'm working on our stuff, I kind of like temporarily change. I'm just, I close my door, I turn off the lights, and I have this kind of like red light that is kind of like it's just moving it's kind of like lava on the walls, and I really get into my little, my dark spot, and I'm like, ugh. So I kind of change when I'm working on the well, not when I'm doing stuff like click tracks, but when I'm writing, I'm a different person, and sometimes it can be draining. But yeah, I try. The fact I'm a mostly happy person is because of the outlet that I have in Phobocosm. So because otherwise, sometimes I'm terrified. When I think about what would I do if I didn't have music, I would be so unhappy.
Dude,
would I still be there? I'm not even sure. I'm like, seriously. I know, I know some people that don't have any hobbies, and I'm like, wow, life must be very hard for you, because sometimes when I feel like shit, I know that music's there for me, and it really helped me deal with a lot of really bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like pretty easily. Just I'm just gonna go jam with my friends, or I'm gonna tab this song, or just stuff like that. It really helped me. Getting my happiness back, because I tend to be I struggle dark moods and stuff like that, but since music is always there, it always kind of like puts me back in the right direction. And yeah, I'm so happy that I have that.
It keeps you on the path, man. Listen, I can 100% relate, man. There's been some fucking black times way back in the day. I don't do drugs myself, but I sure fucking did in my teens and early 20s. And you add like a very rocky upbringing in a rural part of Nova Scotia, and like depression is hereditary, and isolation on top of that. Like I didn't live in town. I was in bumpkin country, man, in the forest. And I had literally nothing to turn to, and music was all I had. And it got so fucking dark, and it was the only thing that pulled me back, even if it wasn't just to clarify things, because I didn't even know if I had the capacity to. It was just something I could put my brain towards in terms of just bringing me back from wherever I was going. And I came out on the other side. I owe everything to that. Like everything, man. I'm without a doubt, I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have that shit in my life. I have a fucking, the proof is in the pudding. I've got a fucking show promoting the music that I love. I'm getting a fucking metal tattoo on my leg, for fuck's sake. Like I owe everything to it, man. I identify with it. It helps you when I'm shit. It helped me way back then. It's great when it's good. I'm enthusiastic about it when it's good. It's just, it is what it is for me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a very happy person too, because I have these outlets, and I'm very fortunate that, you and I have the balls to go and look for those outlets, like whether you find it in a band like yours or in some sort of YouTube radio stuff that I'm doing, like the release is out there. And yeah, I do know or did know people who like, you know, they don't do anything. They don't have stories. There's no hobbies. They get up, they work, they go to bed. Like usually they drink and stuff like that. And they're not, I mean, like it's gotta be a tough existence for sure. You know what I mean? And I just don't, I don't resonate with that kind of thing. So I tend to not surround myself with that situation or those environments anymore. Like I'm 40 years old and I've gone through many friends and many social climates and stuff. And I now think that with all the stuff that I've taken into my life, I know the type of personnel that I want to be. I'm definitely the type of person that I want to attract. You know what I mean? So I look for those people.
Yeah.
And fucking like I'm sure Phobocosm is a great vessel for that. This Evisceradio thing is a great vessel for that. And it just makes you want more. It's like such a satisfying thing. And I ranted a little bit there, but music is definitely, you know, it runs through me in and out. And like, you know, Phobocosm was and still is like one of those things that I turn to, especially when it's 3 a.m. and I can't fucking sleep and I need to put on the fucking mental kaleidoscope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're so lucky to have that, man. I wonder, because, you know, I'm someone who's really, when I like something, I'm not like, yeah, well, it's all right. When I like something, I'm fucking obsessed with it. So I'm like, what would I be into if it weren't for music? There would have to be something, but, you know, there's a lot of stuff that interests me, like, you know, journalism and, you know, psychology and stuff like that. But I'm like, could I be as passionate about that stuff as I am with music? I'm not sure.
Yeah, who's to say? Like, how would you know?
Yeah.
You didn't go down that path, so it's kind of speculation. I mean, I often wonder that too. Like, would I want to be that? Do I feel like I could go down that thing? Like, will I lose interest years from now and go some other route? Like, I like to think I don't think that'll be the case. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that halfway through my life, I've found what I'm looking for. And now it's just more what I can do for it and what it can do for me.
Yeah. Because, you know, I'm a software developer, but I don't do that in the evening. When I log up from my computer, I'm like, all right, I like it. You know, I really like working, because there's some people who hate working. I love it, but it's just when I'm done, I need to move on to stuff that is more, because, you know, I couldn't be as passionate about coding as I am with music. And just one of my main hobbies, besides playing music, is tabbing full albums from bands that I like. And I've started doing that during the pandemic, and it's so much fun. It's like I have this list of albums that I want to do. I have about 17 albums left to do, but I'm like, I need to do this because I've had this project in my mind for ages. And when the pandemic hit and, you know, life kind of like slowed down a little bit and we had more time, I was like, I'm going to try one album. Oh shit, this is awesome, man. You know, music is everywhere in my life. You know, all of my friends are musicians or music fans. At my former job, I was working at a company that had something to do with music. It was kind of like the Canadian version of the Spotify. I quit that job, but, you know, it's almost every single aspect of my life has to do with music. So yeah, it runs in my blood.
Yeah, man, you're all about that. It's awesome when people find what they're about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always looking for more things to see what can best reflect me as a person. Aside from this project that I do, like I said earlier too, I'm a musician myself, but I don't play death metal. I don't play anything heavy at all. Like I'm an acoustic player. I have like a small line of like not boutique guitars, luthier built guitars. I like play, I don't know, some funky folk type stuff, a little bit more instrumentation as opposed to like vocal, but like that's just what naturally comes out, you know what I mean? I did have all the Jackson guitars and the pointy and fucking the dual rectifier and stuff, but I fell out of that. And the one thing that did stick around was the acoustic guitar, and still to this day, it's just one of those things that I like to go to. I'm also passionate about my work. I've been lucky enough to work in the entertainment industry for over a decade now. Most of my background is in live theater. now it's in film. And I'm, like yourself, like we're very happy to be able to wake up and, make the coin the way that you want to make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the most beneficial things I've had happen to me in the last 6 months was, and we experienced this here on the show, on this interview, is that my fucking internet doesn't work. I live in this building where it's old and the internet just has given out in the walls. The cables have eroded, and I can't physically get internet in here. So I'm hotspotting off my phone this interview, like I said, but there is no more mindless rabbit hole YouTube. There are no TV shows. There's no streaming that stuff anymore. I got to turn to things that are actually in front of me to find, release from what I was using for years as a distraction. So, and as a consequence of that, like the guitar playing has gotten up, the production on the show has gone up, and the drive to like keep things going has gone up. And now that when I reintroduce YouTube, for example, it's like I'm on there 10 minutes and I just don't even fucking, like, I don't even bother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always looking for inspiration in different ways, and to take away something sometimes like benefits everything else that's in line. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What else have I got to say, man? I'm not entirely sure. I fucking have had a blast talking to you. This has been a great conversation, man. See, I told you it was going to be easy. Like just sitting down and chilling, man. Like I don't have any hard pressed questions. That's not what it's like here.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, as I mentioned, I was like, some interviews are kind of like more, kind of like the history of the band, and I have a lot of data about Phobocosm. Okay, we did this on that date and stuff like that. So I was wondering, is this the type of interview we're going to do? So I managed to find the kind of like the timeline of all of the milestones of the bands that I wrote down a while ago for, around the first album, because I was like, is this the type of interview we're going to do? But I just wanted to make sure that I was ready, because, I wouldn't want to be just like, I think so. Yeah. But it's cool to that the interview is kind of like just a chat. As you said, it's kind of like we're in in front of a beer in a bar and just shooting the shit and talking. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, man. I'm no historian. I mean, I do like to know about things in terms of a linear progression, I guess. But like it's sort of been done. I was talking to a podcast person, not related to the metal stuff, and he was asking about like how do you interview people, and I was like, well, you can kind of start by just being like a person made the music. It's not so much about a musician; it's about a person who just has this project, and that opens up lots of like just natural discourse, right? I mean, if you wanted to learn about the history of Phobocosm, well, there's been interviews. You just said so yourself. I think I like a nice relaxed kind of deal. And I knew that, from chatting with you on Messenger and stuff like that, that I was going to get that. So I'm really happy that it worked out this way, man. I wonder if I should be leading with my, hey, do you want to sit down on the show stuff with like, don't worry, there's no history involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll leave that for maybe another time. I'll look into it. But listen, man, I thank you again so much for sitting down with me. I had a blast. Phobocosm kicks fucking ass. I look forward to hearing all the new shit. And if you or your boys will ever want to sit down and chat one of these days down the road, man, you're more than welcome. Doors wide open.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, man, fucking and keep on collecting them CDs, man.
Oh yes, I will.
Yeah, keep on doing that. Yeah, right. All right, brother. Listen, thanks again.
Cheers.
Take care. Evening. Yeah, you too. Bye.
Take care.
Yeah, that sit down was a ton of fun, man. Sam was a super genuine dude, and you see the stack of the CDs that he's got behind him? Like almost 1,000 CDs of almost metal. He's got 500 and some vinyls and shit. Music is such a huge part of his life. I could totally relate to him. I had a lot of fun, man. Fucking Sam, right on. Thank you very much for the great sit down. And you heard it from him. Phobocosm got another album coming out, and following an EP after that, and already material ready for the 4th album. Like, those guys came out of COVID swinging. If you haven't heard of them before, again, you got to go check out their band camps. They're on all social media platforms. Do yourself a favor, buy their shit. It is super duper dope, and they're on Dark Descent Records, whose roster is super super dope. These guys, you got to keep an eye on them. You got to keep an eye on them. Very cool stuff. And while you're at it, show Evisceradio some love, please. I'm across all social media platforms as well, Facebook, Instagram. I'm obviously on YouTube. If radio jam's your thing, I have a 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. EST time slot over at metaldevastationradio.com, where it's just me and a microphone and playing piles of music that I'm into. Phobocosm, you best bet, is on that list. They have a home here. And so yeah, if you're into the fucking jams, man, just tune in 6 to 8 p.m. Hope to see you there. So on that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the content. My name is Thomas. This is Evisceradio, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.